If you ever thought about getting into the events industry or starting any sort of business that involves creativity in general, then this video is for you. I didn't have a business degree or any background knowledge of the events space. I kind of just stumbled into it. And today, my mom and I run a successful and growing event rental and balloon design business here in Central Florida. So, this is the origin story of that and all the reasons why I am staying. If you don't know me, my name's Lex, also known as Fosforita. I make videos about my journey with entrepreneurship, why I'm never going back to 9 to 5 life, and my journey to become a full-time entrepreneur, freelancer, and a successful business owner. I'm going to tell you about my experience, our story, our journey, and how you could possibly get there too. Or maybe all the reasons why you shouldn't do it, because that could be a thing too. So let's talk about the origin story of Loononna, which is the name of our company here that we run in Central Florida. This all really started as a creative outlet for my mom during the pandemic. It was a skill that was literally born out of sheer boredom, but it was the skill that she developed to create extravagant balloon designs. It was very random, but I noticed and I knew immediately that we had something. So it's really so hard to explain that feeling. It's kind of how people explain being in love, like when you know, which is so corny, but that is literally how it feels when you know you need to start a business. And that is the feeling that I felt when I knew my mom had developed a very niche skill and she was committed to creating this kind of like side hustle. So I knew we needed to start a business together, and that we did. So it was a side hustle for a while. The business was born in 2020. It was something that was being done in a 2-bedroom apartment. I mean, the apartment was always full of balloons, and she just kind of ran with it. She ended up taking a one-on-one course with a very well-known balloon person in the industry. At the time, he was known by Bravest Balloons. He's now known by Blue Garden, but he does these extravagant, beautiful balloon designs. And she decided to do a one-on-one course with him in 2020, toward the end of 2020, when the pandemic was kind of wrapping up at its tail end. And I remember sitting in the car on the way back from Atlanta from that trip, doing all the things that we needed to do to start a business. I literally started an Instagram. I opened up our Gmail account. I started a Squarespace account. Anything that we needed to do that I could do on my cell phone, I was doing it in the car on the way back from that trip. So that was a very interesting experience, but we had all of this motivation, all of this fuel. It was just something that I was not ever really passionate about learning how to do balloons. I know how to do them because I obviously help in many ways with the business, but my brain was more focused on the business side, the administrative stuff, the marketing stuff, just learning how to be a business owner, how to be an entrepreneur. I was not really interested in being an event planner, an event designer, a balloon designer. I was not really interested in any of that. What I was interested in was running my own business, and that I was prepared to do by any means necessary. So when I saw the window of opportunity and I saw that this was something that her and I can partner up on, I took it and I ran with it. So we were on a roll. We got back. We just started doing lots of gigs for friends, family. That's typically how it happens, right? We had no prior experience in the events industry, so we had to kind of like get that experience under our belt. And so we would do everyone's events. And in the beginning, we were getting paid little to nothing. It was quite literally just a hobby or just, a side hustle. And we spent about 3 years like that, kind of like in this limbo where we were both still working full time. We were both still trying to maintain our livelihoods, and we were trying to learn how to grow a business. And it was hard. It was really, really hard. But people loved our stuff. We had a good response and we were getting business. Like, people wanted to work with us. So our thoughts and our hunch about what we had was starting to get validated. So we knew that it wasn't something that we could give up on, and We turned it really into like this family business where it was me, my sisters, my mom, and we would just all get involved, all hands on deck, and we would go and do these extravagant, crazy balloon setups. It's from the, I'm sure from an outsider's perspective, it probably sounds so crazy, but it literally just became our lives. Like we are just like the balloon people. It's crazy. So there's always a pivot. I think from having the experience now of running your own business, I truly believe, and other entrepreneurs or solopreneurs can probably comment and validate this and tell me if I'm right or wrong, but there's always a point in like the timeline of your entrepreneurship journey, your business journey, where there is a pivot. And the pivot happens when you go from, oh, this is fun, this is cute, this is something that could work, like imagine if blah 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 blah, to this is it. This is what we're doing. This is who we are. This is what consumes my life day in and day out. And like this is now me. This is an extension of me. It was never that I didn't want to take it to the next level. It's that I just didn't know how to do that while simultaneously working a full-time job. When I got laid off the first time in 2023, there was a period of time where I knew that I wanted to start leaning more into entrepreneurship. But obviously I still had to make money. So I was bartending, I was serving, I was doing all sorts of like odd jobs. I got my CrossFit certification, started coaching. I was doing kind of like odd jobs just to make ends meet, but I knew that something needed to change. So I started to take a marketing certification with Google, digital marketing and e-commerce certification with Google. And while I was taking that course, I also started fixing our website. So what did I do? I learned web design. I learned how to fix the website. It took me months. Okay, it was a lot of Googling, it was a lot of stress. I learned how to fix the website. At the same time, I was also learning about social media marketing. I was learning about social media strategy when it comes to selling a service. And I learned a lot also about Google Ads and ad spend. So all of those things combined, I was getting my certification. I was fixing the website. That was the moment when I started to lock in and really learn about marketing and start to build out a marketing plan for the business that we've had already for 3 years. 3 years in, I start building a marketing plan. That's when I noticed that's when I knew it was time to lock in. I knew exactly what I needed to do, and it was like everything else kind of just fell in line like a domino effect. I built out a marketing plan from scratch. Thank you very much. We never built out a business plan, but I sure as heck found a way to build out a marketing plan. But yeah, when I say in 2020 that we hit the ground running, we like legitimately just hit the ground running. And sometimes that's what it takes. Like you just kind of have to jump in and decide that it's sink or swim. So yeah, I didn't wake up one day with a business plan. It evolved. I was learning as I went. The pricing, the marketing, how to use the Google Search Console, all that stuff, I learned it from scratch. And at some point, along the way, I realized this isn't just for fun anymore. This is something that I want to build out long term. And it is something that I know that I would be damn good at. Why is it that I stayed? Why am I still here to this day? And why did I ultimately decide I'm not going back to 9 to 5 and this is what I am going to do and invest my time in? Well, working in the event space is a very, very meaningful and rewarding job. It is fun. It is stressful and chaotic as hell, but it's a lot of fun. It is rewarding in the sense that people have a vision, you bring that vision to life, they pay you the big bucks to do that, and everybody's happy. As long as you're obviously good at your job, you're always going to have fun. I think that what I love about the events industry, despite the stress, is bringing joy to people's lives. Telling them we can provide them with a service, fulfilling that promise or exceeding their expectations on that promise, and then being able to see our results that we literally built with our hands. And then the reward in that is that they're happy, we're paid, everyone has a good life. It has definitely taught me that I am definitely the type of person that thrives in chaos. I do well. I work well under pressure. I work well in stressful situations. And I tend to find the quiet in the storm. So if you're somebody that does not know how to deal well with their stress, doesn't thrive in chaos, and isn't able to kind of like adapt and make changes on the fly, then the events space obviously it's not going to be for you. But there is something really powerful about transforming a space and being part of someone's big moment. Even though it can be super exhausting, there's nothing like stepping back and seeing a setup and knowing that you did that. It made me believe in myself in ways that I actually didn't expect. Okay, so now we're going to talk about the real deal, the nitty gritty, right? What's so hard about being in the events industry? From my experience, which is all I can speak on, it is extremely hard to build an event business as a side hustle. It is extremely hard to decide that you are going to be in the event space and not be able to dedicate 100% of your time to your business. Why? Well, because if you're actually going to take it serious as a legit business, it's not just about, throwing together a few plans and a mood board for somebody's event and then setting it up on the weekend and then, boom, you're done. There's a lot that goes into actually running an events business, especially if you're going to have rentals, if you're going to, if you're going to do the whole shebang, it takes a lot. Another thing that people don't realize is that it also is a very hard business to get into alone. It is extremely hard to be a solo event planner. Most of the event planners, especially when I was doing my market research, I noticed this, that most event planners and balloon decor people, they either do it like as a family or as a partnership, because it is extremely hard to be in the event space alone. You have to be extremely organized, and even still, you have to be prepared to make changes, to change things on the fly. People cancel, people change their mind, clients are difficult. It is really hard to do it alone. And what I wish I knew earlier is that if I was really going to be able to scale the business the way that I've been able to do in the last year and a half or so, I needed to quit my job a long time ago. So if you are currently thinking about stepping into the event space, my biggest form of advice would be to live well below your means so that you can spend time learning what it actually takes to run a business, especially if you don't have that experience. I would try to live within your means or even below it so that you have the financial capability to work on the business. It is a big time commitment. It is not one of those businesses that run itself. You have to legitimately be involved every step of the way. You have to build a portfolio. You have to be able to network. You have to be able to put yourself out there. You have to meet other people in the industry. Those are things that I didn't know when we got started. And I didn't realize how important they would be like I do now. I also wish I thought about how physically demanding it is, or how many last minute changes you'd have to deal with. But it really forced me and my mom to get better with boundaries, with time, with confidence. So that is the nitty gritty. That's the real deal. That is the stuff that people aren't going to tell you about being in this space, especially in events. Everybody wants to portray that they are perfect. They're the best event planner. They're the most perfect. Everything is great. They're the most organized. They're not going to tell you the behind the scenes, what actually happens to get events to where they need to be. So, moral of the story is, if you're thinking about getting into the event space, start small, try things out. Trial and error is going to be your best friend. Say yes to things before you're ready. Even if you don't have the business plan, even if you don't have the pricing structure, you have to put yourself out there. You have to try. You have to be able to test things out. You have to be able to probably do a couple of things for free, maybe for some friends, to see if you even actually want to do it. You don't need to know everything to start, and you'll learn most of it by just doing. But I will say that if you're going to get into this space, you really do have to be willing to play the long game, because it might be a year, 2 years, even a few years before you get your business to where you actually want it to be. So if you have any questions that I didn't get to or that I didn't cover in this video, drop them below in the comments. I would love to hear and open up a new conversation with you. And if you're building a creative business or want more behind the scenes of entrepreneurship, then subscribe. I have a ton of videos coming up for you that's going to be about everything along the way and along the journey. Thanks so much for watching. Bye.